Hey there, my friend. God has called you to write a book, but what if the reason you're stuck isn't because of what to say, it's how to say it? I know many Christian writers, they just don't know how to frame their story and they stay stuck and it stays stuck in their head or on their hard drive. Or maybe they wonder, is this supposed to be my life story? Is this supposed to be a memoir, a book that helps others? It just gets all muddled and confusing. And that stops more authors than writer's block ever does. So today, let's clear that up because once you understand the difference between a memoir and a Christian living book, you will finally know how to write the story God's called you to share. Hi, I'm Shonda Whitworth, and I'm a Christian nonfiction writing coach. I help authors conquer overwhelm, finish their manuscript, and release the books that God's called them to write. You know, the New York Times says that 81% of the people want to write a book, but 6% actually finish the manuscript and only 1% ever publish. My mission is to help you rise to the 1%. So before I get to the details, let me take you back to when I first learned this lesson before I ever worked as a Christian in the Christian publishing arena. I attended a lot of writers' conferences. I was full of passion, ready to write my story. I wanted to write a Bible story about Bible study. All right, I wanted to write a Bible study. But when I was at these conferences, I would hear something. I wasn't really interested in writing a memoir, so to speak, but I heard a lot of training. And, that's what it's important is to go places, gather with writers, gather with agents, gather with editors, gather with publishers and find out how they work. All right. And one of the things that I kept hearing over and over again was that publishers don't buy memoirs from authors that don't have platforms. And and then I started working for a publishing house, and then I finally started understanding more of the why. And it boils down to publishing houses are a for-profit business, and they want to make a profit. An author wants to make a profit, and as a publisher partnering with an author, the goal is to profit from the sales of the book. And let's just face it, if you're not an A-list author or performer, or you don't have any type of large platform, your books, a memoir is not going to sell. It's really hard to sell a memoir. All right. It's hard enough to sell a normal book, but to sell a memoir is even harder. And this realization has helped me as I coach clients on how to write today. So let's unpack the difference. I'm going to unpack the difference between the Christian living genre and a memoir. So we're going to unpack those two. So the Christian living genre, I like to think of it, I think of it as like in the non-Christian realm of being in the self-help book category. So like when you go to the bookstore and you see the sign self-help, that's what Christian living is. It's like a broad area of helping believers apply biblical truth to their everyday life. So that's what the Christian living genre is to take your story and apply biblical principles to it and the lessons learned, is the transformation process. Like you start here, here's your problem, and then you go through the process of what's learned to the how to apply it to your life. All right, that in a faith perspective. And that's the Christian living genre in a nutshell. The genre is huge and it covers a wide array of topics, such as parenting, personal growth, emotional well-being, conquering fear, prayer, Christian leadership, social issues, and spiritual warfare. All right. So, and more. I mean, I'm just naming a snippet of what they are, just a snippet. So, these books typically follow a proven structure in each chapter. They include a story, whether your own story or somebody else's story. the biblical truth, which is the transformation process. This is what I learned from the Bible and how to apply this truth. And then the final section, your application. And so, how to apply it to the life, how the reader can apply what has been taught uh, to their life. So, these books, they teach, they equip. All right. So, let me give you some examples of some authors. These are just a snippet, a very small snippet. You can go online and Google Christian living or go to Amazon and type in Christian living and you'll see all the books. And I encourage you to do Amazon research. Look at your own bookshelf and do research. All right. Look at these books in your home. Do a study of them. I know you bought these books to read them and to take in the content. Well, now as you're stepping into being an author for yourself, it's time to look at these books once again and examine them from a author perspective, from a publisher perspective. So if you're wanting to self-publish, you're a publisher, all right? So look at these books on your bookshelf. I'm just pulling three examples here. Forgiving What You Can't Forget by Lisa TeCurse. That is an example of a Christian living book. Now, Lisa TeCurse, does she have the platform that she can write a memoir? Absolutely, she does. But why does she choose to write this kind of book in the Christian living genre? I can't tell you why she's chosen it, but let me tell you, she's having impact in ways that a memoir would not have because it is written as a Christian living book. My friend, Dr. Michelle Bankston, her latest book, Sacred Scars, is a Christian living book. My prayer book, Appeal to the Courtroom of Heaven, is a Christian living book. All of these books are written in a manner that is formatted in a way that will serve the reader directly. And that will give them a transformation process to evaluate, to apply to their life. And this is the type of genre that can build both your impact and your income. We're going to talk about that more in just a minute. But the memoir, let's go into what the memoir is. This is storytelling. This is a narrative. This is a book that's written through your lens of faith as a believer, uh, but is written like a novel. Now, let me explain something. A lot of people may confuse a memoir with an autobiography. An autobiography starts with, was born in 1965 and blah, blah, blah. It starts in the small town, blah, blah, blah. That, all right? It's a complete life story that tells everything that happened in your life. That's an autobiography. But a memoir is merely a snippet of your life and how God transformed you through those specific events. All right. These memoirs will read like a novel, and they also require, like a novel, character development, conflict, pacing, and they follow a specific arc. All right. And they take the reader on a journey with you through your journey of transformation and your showing and how God met you, how God healed you, how God changed you, and how God was with you all the way through the process. So, some examples that I'm going to share with you. Again, this is just a snippet of examples. Again, I encourage you, do your own research. Look up memoirs on Amazon or go to your bookshelf and pull memoirs and look and examine the structure. And it'll make more sense to you when you go and look at it and examine the structure yourself. So the book I Can Only Imagine by Bart Millard, that's his story. It's a narrative about how about the process that he went through to get his breakthrough song of I Can Only Imagine. Joni and Ken, An Untold Story of Love by Joni and Ken Tata. All right, Joni Tata and Ken Tata. Is their story of their marriage. Heaven is for Real by Todd Burpo. That's his story about his son having a vision of heaven. And then, of course, the classic, The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. All right. So these are strong memoirs that I shared with you, and they are written from a place of honesty, and they go deeply, they're deeply emotional, and it does take advanced storytelling skill. Now, as a writing coach, um, I encourage new authors that have not ever written anything before to not choose writing a memoir because of the story structure and how much more difficult it is. I have not ever written a memoir, and I don't know that I will because of the, I just understand that the Christian living genre is a much it's a good genre to present your story from. And I think what a lot of people confuse that if I'm writing a self-help book or a Christian living book, I'm not telling my story. Oh, you're very much telling your story because your story is what drives the lesson. And that's what a lot of people, that's a misnomer a lot of people have. So here's what I've learned from working in the publishing house for almost a decade, that traditional houses rarely publish memoir by first-time authors. They just don't do it. They just don't publish memoirs from first-time authors. They want authors who have an established audience. Why? Because the books are hard to market, and readers only typically buy memoirs from names that they recognize. So, as a self-published author, I encourage you to evaluate the purpose of you writing your book. So, you know the best way to invest your finances because you are investing personally as a self-published author, as an indie author, you are making the investment in yourself and you want to get a return for your clients. So here's what I tell my clients is that if your goal is to have impact and income, you want both impact as well as income. Start with a Christian living book. It will help you build a platform, develop your voice, and start reaching your readers faster. All right. Now, if your goal is to leave a legacy, to leave behind your testimony for your family, your friends, your local community, and you really feel like God's leading you to write this memoir, then by all means, write it. All right. Both of these types of books both honor God, they just have different purposes. Now, I prefer to coach on the Christian living and the Christian living genres. That is, I'm more comfortable with that genre and coaching in that genre. Both types of books, whether you're writing a Christian living book or a memoir, they require courage. Why? Because vulnerability and transparency is what sells. Uh, my publisher once told me, why does he was talking to me about bleeding on the pages. He would read some of the samples of what I was working on and he would tell me, you're not bleeding enough. I said, I need to bleed more. And he says, yes. And I said, why do I need to bleed more? And this was the example he gave us. He goes, when you're driving down the freeway and the traffic bottlenecks, why is it bottlenecking? Because people are looking and watching the scene of the accident. All right. And so they slow down. Well, one, because you need to slow down, but they're looking at the accident. People want to see that. And when they see your vulnerability and your transparency, they will connect with you. And that is the hardest part. And that's why it takes courage. So here's the key difference I want to leave you with today as we wrap this up. The Christian Living book will equip your reader with giving them a how to, here's how you step into this. This is what I learned and here's how you could step into this. This is what I did, and this will help you. A memoir will transform your reader through their personal story. They may pick up everything, they may miss something. It will be whatever is resonating with them. Whichever way you choose to write your book, just be sure it aligns with your God-given purpose for your writing. All right. I tell you both of these formats, and I'm telling you which one I lean to And if you're a first-time author or a new author that does not have a large platform, even if you've written 10 books, if your platform is not large, I still say stick to Christian living. All right. That is the genre to stay with until your platform is large. So remember, your story is sacred, and the way you decide to write it will determine who it reaches. And if you get this foundation right, and that's how you're going to rise to the 1%. Now, if this has helped you at all, please be sure to share it with others and drop your biggest takeaway in the comments and be sure to subscribe so you don't ever miss the next video. I hope this clears some things up for you so you can get unstuck and get moving and writing your story so you rise to the 1%. God bless.